So yesterday was day two of Donald Trump's second impeachment trial. Monday, day one, was a full day of debate as to whether the Senate actually has the jurisdiction to try a former president. They decided, yes, we do, by a 56 to 44 vote. So yesterday was sort of like the first real day with 8 hours going to the prosecution. We saw all sorts of different presentations, including presentations with videos from the January 6th riots, some of which we'll review later. Video that was previously not seen, video that showed just how close of a call it was for a lot of members of the House and Senate avoiding these riotous, violent mobs incited by Donald Trump. And you would think that even though most Republicans have already prejudged this impeachment trial, most Republicans have already decided they're going to be voting to acquit regardless of what's going on. You might have thought that they'd have at least pretended to be paying attention, pretended to be weighing the presentations and making some kind of a decision based on the evidence that was there. But they had the benefit that the cameras did not show the chamber at any time during the proceedings. The cameras, as we saw during yesterday's live streams and much of the media coverage, were focused in quite tightly on the presenter, the various House impeachment managers who had turns to speak yesterday. And we were left to rely on reports of members of the media in the chamber to tell us what exactly were senators doing during what are very long days of presentations. And it turns out that many Republicans were engaged in everything from drawing doodles to sneaking in iPads, as Chuck Grassley reportedly did, in order to be able to read other material, unclear exactly what it was, while the presentations were going on. Business Insider has a nice sort of compilation of different reports about this, and they say that many senators were distracting themselves yesterday afternoon when the Democratic impeachment managers were laying out the case. Rand Paul, who at many points appeared to be the only person in the chamber not wearing a mask, he was doodling and, according to one report, drew a picture of what appeared to be the Capitol, I guess almost like architectural drawings of some kind, according to reporters in the room. During a long stretch of the presentation, Rand Paul wasn't even in the room. But at one point, when the proceedings went to a break, Rand Paul reportedly ran back in and gave a note to Trump's attorney, David Schoen. That's according to an ABC News reporter named Allison Peckerin. Cynthia Lummis, who's a Wyoming Republican, at certain points was not wearing a mask as well. Manu Raju reporting that Rand Paul wasn't even at his desk for much of the 1 p.m. hour. That was a key hour of presentations from the House impeachment managers. NBC News was able to report that Senator Mike Braun was sleeping during certain parts of the presentation. This is not like they slept through metaphorically. Mike Braun was literally asleep during part of these presentations. Rick Scott, at one point, was looking at a map of what appeared to be Southeast Asia. Unclear if he was catching up on the geopolitical implications of the borders in Asia, or maybe figuring out where he wanted to go on an upcoming trip. Senator Josh Hawley, who was one of the main players in voting against the certification of a number of different votes on January 6th, at one point was leaning back with his feet up on the back of a seat in front of him. Remember when Barack Obama put his feet up on the desk in the Oval Office, and it was big scandal, almost as big a scandal as when he wore a tan suit or liked the wrong mustard. And Republicans said, you don't put your feet up in the Oval Office. Well, Senator Josh Hawley with his feet up on the seat in front of him in the Senate, and he appeared to be reading documents unrelated to the impeachment trial. And he said he was reading trial briefs. So this is, I mean, listen, if this were, a lot of Republicans have been making the case that there's too much about this trial that's not happening the way a real trial would happen in a court of law. For example, many Republicans have taken issue with the fact that Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy is not only presiding over the impeachment trial, but will also be a juror, in that he is one of the 100 votes on the conviction or acquittal of Donald Trump. And Senator Patrick Leahy also is, in a sense, a witness because he was there on January 6th. Now, the witness thing would apply to every single one of these senators since they were all there on January 6th. So that seems to be neither here nor there. But one of the other important differences between a, quote, real trial in a court of law and what's going on here is that if normal jurors were reading on iPads, sleeping, reading documents related to other matters during a trial, they would be removed from a case. And it could even potentially lead to a mistrial, depending on what the circumstances were. In a normal jury, many of the individuals would be disqualified, not potentially because they were so-called witnesses, but because they were part of the alleged crime that took place. What I mean by that is that many of the senators that will be jurors, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and others, were actually part of the 2-month campaign of claiming that the election was stolen by Joe Biden from Donald Trump that led to the January 6th riots in the first place. They were essentially part of the conspiracy with the defendant, in this case, Donald Trump. So there's a lot to sort through here, but I would hope that everybody would be able to see that reports of senators sleeping and senators sneaking in iPads and say, listen, that's not right. Even if they ultimately are going to vote to acquit, they should be paying attention. But unfortunately, there are lots of right-wingers defending this, saying it's a kangaroo court, it's a sham, it's ridiculous, it's meaningless, it shouldn't even be happening. So good for these senators for literally sleeping through it. It's stunning that this is what's going on. It's stunning that these are the 100 of the most powerful people in the United States, and some of them are napping, literally napping during the proceedings. We'll see today how it continues. I don't expect Rand Paul to change his behavior. I don't expect Chuck Grassley to change his behavior. And we'll get into some of the meat of what was presented yesterday, which was truly stunning to see.
A lot of the shirts you see me wearing on YouTube are actually made by a company called Teddy Stratford. I love these shirts, and that's why I asked them to be a sponsor of the show. It really is the most innovative shirt you can buy because most slim fit button-up shirts give you this weird stretched out gap in the chest where the buttons are. You don't get that with the Teddy Stratford shirts because all of their shirts come with a patented zipper hidden beneath the buttons, which prevents the chest from stretching apart like that. But most importantly, just overall, it makes the shirt fit much better and look better. The carefully designed shirt is also cut in a way that improves the look of your upper body physique. It has a really nice, elegant, close fit that other shirts don't really give you. It also has a specially designed collar that won't fall down and lay flat, which I love. The difference all around with these shirts really is noticeable. Go check them out at davidpakman.com/Teddy. The link is down below and they'll give you 15% off your first order if you use the coupon code PAKMAN at checkout.